both Jin Air and MVP have an outside chance of playoffs. Who will go 6-8 and actually join SKT just a couple of series away from the playoff spots?
Well, we'll find out right now as we hop into Champion Select, and I'm very intrigued as to what Jin Air are going to be banding away on the red side. You have a feeling that MVP, first pick Sion, feels like the absolute dream moving into this match, but Camille will leave Jin Air now to make their decision. Will it be the Swain? Will it be the Sion? What's going to go?
And what about the meta bans? Because I was mentioning that Beyond had been stepping up as the Flex Sion is banned away. Beyond's champion pool and Umti's, when it comes to effective picks, are actually very polar opposite. Beyond is 5-1 on Sejuani, and Umti is 1-7. Feels like they will take the Sejuani as a denial pick, but it hasn't really been panning out for Jin Air when they actually select it. You will see the Olaf ban targeted at Umti to allow something like a Sejuani a bit more flexibility. And I had a feeling the jungle bans would come in, and there's at least 3 here already, as the jungle Camille a favorite of Umti's as well.
Yeah, Umti is getting heavily pinched by MVP.
Do they just ban Kha'Zix and first pick the Sejuani? A possibility, but they don't want to give away Xayah Rakan to as intimidating a bot lane. And guys, remember, they really were dominated in the 2v2 by Teddy and Wraith in the first round robin, so it makes sense to deny one of the power duos.
Yep, you imagine that MVP probably trying to get Pilot on something like that. Caitlyn again, give him some lane control, get him down there happily, because Teddy is very intimidating, and they are going to take away the Varus. So Varus has almost seen permaban status here on 8.4 so far in the LCK. Got so many players that loved him anyway, but he has been really coveted. But that's going to be a first pick Gangplank, and ADD, one of these players that you don't necessarily feel is the Gangplank player, but has been silently achieving on the champion.
And it was a pick that he played a lot of, but actually to some degree of success in their losses. You know, he is 3-4 on the champion, largely playing it when the team was in complete freefall. So it's been pretty effective for them. We've seen very little reaches on the Gangplank. He's kind of been a second round ban, sometimes a first round ban, but not selected a whole hell of a lot. I can only remember Faker in the mid lane when it comes to this week of play. So we will see likely a top lane Gangplank, but always the outside chance of a mid lane Gangplank coming through from MVP. So far, no big grasp onto the Tristana or the Caitlyn, which to me are the 2 big AD carries here. And the Sejuani, we mentioned it, feels like more of a takeaway pick, but kind of the last premier big ticket Cinderhawk jungler available. Seems like it'll be selected away by Umti.
Yeah, the Sejuani, pretty understandable pickup here, but you mentioned his stats on the champion. He really wants to try and get back in there. As Beyond, he's going to be able to pick up the Zac this time around.
This is kind of the concern I have for Jin Air, is that when it comes to tank junglers especially, it feels like every time they're forced into Sejuani, they lost rock, paper, scissors. That's kind of how it goes, because the Zac is something that Umti's played no games of in the spring season. I believe maybe even no career games, and is a fine tank matchup into the Sejuani. They give over the Sejuani, and they feel super pressured to go Kha'Zix, and sometimes that won't work. So they do lose the rock, paper, scissors in these scenarios where the likes of Camille, Skarner, and Olaf are off the table. So it feels like already a little bit pinched. We mentioned AD carries. Tristana into the Ezreal is very standard, and no Caitlyn in this game, it seems.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad, though, because MVP, you look at Pilot and his statistics, 2-0 currently on the Tristana, sitting at a 20.0 KDA. The guy has certainly been going well, but Teddy's exactly the same. Teddy is, like, hard carrying on the Trist. I would have thought that it might be given a little bit more priority, but double kleptomancy over on MVP's side. They just want to get themselves into a pretty easy gold lead to start this game off.
Gold generation may have been nerfed, but we know that it is that artificial increase. We're also on patch 8.4, guys. Not the same as the live service, so Bandit is still there. So very well could be a Relic Shield into Targon start for the Gangplank.
And given the Tracker's Knife has left, could mean that the Targon sits around for a little while and tries to actually complete some quests to get some more vision onto the map. The Corki's going to be taken away as well as the Rise. So Ian, all of his most played champions now removed.
Very interesting that you notice that this is different to any other series we'll see this week, Atlas, because look for a Gargoyle. There's no Galio ban or pick. MVP will always leave it up, and they've actually never locked it in. It would fit this comp. They could definitely go for a pylon comp, but so far they have not drafted a single game of the Galio. We'll wait and see. Azir, of course, a very decent matchup into it, a farm matchup. See what MVP will actually want to play in the mid lane. Looking at their draft, they could definitely go for a Talia If they want to Ziggs,
Insta-lock Ziggs.
All
okay,
right.
no worries. Unless that's a mid lane Tahm Kench and we got Ziggs support from Max. You never really know. But
I mean, let's just be excited. Ziggs in the mid lane is a fun one to see. Similar to Talia in terms of wave control, but of course not the same global roaming ability.
Think about the big global circles they're going to have to worry about with the cannon barrage on top of the Mega Inferno bomb. You could just get bombarded from almost anywhere.
Now, awkwardly, Jin Air does have a pretty mobile comp, no Varus to just kind of be sad if his flash is down. So
yeah, true.
A lot of ability to elude the circles, but MVP do it the MVP way. They do not play Galio. It's left open and falls through the draft for maybe the second or third time in 2018 in Korea. Looking at the two teams, the team fight God comp coming through from Jin Air, but also some very good lanes in bot and top lane and mid lane. The Ziggs comes back for the first time in a while. I imagine he'll have some degree of pushing power against the Azir, but even that, one item in, may start to be arrested by the natural power of Azir in lane.
And the lane control that you're going to get on a global scale here from MVP is actually insane. Being able to Mega Inferno bomb side lanes, make sure that you can get your waves in exactly the right places, and yeah, of course, because Gangplank's in the game, we need to have that Save Private Ryan episode.
So what you're saying is everyone piles in bot lane, Ziggs ults mid lane, Gangplank ults top,
yeah.
boom!
You can do whatever you want, just stay there 5-man the whole time.
Who needs a macro?
You don't need a macro. This is like basically ARAM.
Kongnu Monster have found their new comp.
Here we go. Oh, well, Beyond as well. I mean, we know that Umpty not necessarily finding a lot of success on the Sejuani, but also not going to be able to be his early game aggressive self. Going to have some opportunities to get around this map, but
and
it is
Twitch
largely
TV
scaling.
have found a way to get back in as well.
Done it. We've turned the lights back on.
Just for the right time. Nocturne ult be damned. It was bugged for too long there. We're ready for some League of Legends. It's 8.4. It's for getting off relegations, and maybe even for a late surge to playoffs.
Yeah, trying to tie with SKT as well will be huge for either of these teams. We'll see what happens as we get onto Summoner's Rift for game number 1 of the day.
There's a lot of fighting chance. A lot of fans who are hyped about this match.
Oh, yeah.
And we are too, Atlas. Sometimes MVP versus Jin Air, a couple weeks before the end of the season, it's a bit of a dead rubber. Here it is a very important match. It's both teams an outside chance of that late playoff surge.
And you can understand why MVP have so many fans as well, because you can almost guarantee that MVP is going to try something cool in the draft.
But you know, it's not usually Ian. Usually it was ADD,
or
certainly
Max
as a big mad scientist in the support role. Ian has always had a bit of a limited champion pool, and when he's gone for new stuff, it's definitely been up and down. But the MVP fans, look at this from Thailand.
Yeah.
Very much some loyal fans. Always love to see something new, and the Arcanist Ziggs comes into the mid lane.
Well, is it Arcanist or is it Arcanist?
It's Arcane if it's with an E, so I'm guessing it's Arcanist, but I actually don't know. Arcanist sounds pretty standard.
It sounds cool, doesn't it?
I'm willing to be wrong on this
I often say things wrong because I think they sound cooler anyway, Papa Smithy. It's probably not great.
I've said a lot of words, but I don't know if I've ever said Arcanist out loud, so... That happens more in your second language than your primary language, but I guess that's what happens. Not enough D&D for me, I guess.
Yeah, that might be it. Oh, Bouncing Bomb's going to go wide as Ian takes a few Sand Soldier stabs as Grace holding control over this lane, level 1.
Lane control for an Azir, still a thing, even after the heavy nerfs to the early game of the Azir. You only really match the Q damage at level 9. Toned down before, and the cooldown toned down as well.
Yeah.
But still, going to push in, and Gnar is going to have a happy time against GP, even though we know that ends up being a net positive lane for GP. We haven't seen GP die in the Gnar matchup for a very long time, and bot lane has the start against Ezreal. So 3 pushing waves. You'd be tempted to say Umpty is going to be the big benefactor, but he's on this kind of champion that he's struggled to find impact on. The Sejuani he's had aggressive performances on, but actually turn that into match victories has been a struggle for Jin Air.
And it's been a struggle for a lot of teams actually recently. It feels like Sejuani has been coveted, but not necessarily finding a lot of success as the season moves forward. As in goes Grace, actually getting incredibly aggressive onto Ian.
Wants to get a summoner, doesn't get one, but does get the chunk out onto Ian. Notice that Ian went unsealed spellbook, so can teleport back to lane. I imagine Archangel is going to be the pick for the Ziggs, one of the reasons that he might be in the meta. Definitely an argument for Ludens and for
Yeah, I was thinking
Archangels
Ludens as well, just adding to massive amounts of wave clear.
It does allow him to one-shot the backline basically every time and earlier than you would expect. He's already back into mid, but no big purge. It's going to be the Dark Seal, so we'll hold our judgment.
And also, Umpty's going to turn up, and you can see no potions available for Ian as well. As another bouncing bob is going to go wide. In goes Beyond, but he actually might be in trouble. Permafrost is going to stun him up, but he does get a really nice stretchy arms. And Umpty, he's in trouble. Going to have to flash out of the way.
Wraith's here as well.
Yeah, not a lot of damage onto these orbs as Wraith's going to turn up. Oh, last second teleport. Not going to be enough. And that's going to be first blood to Jin Air at 3.5 minutes into the game.
Bit of a sleepy start there. I think Beyond was too optimistic of his own tankiness, and the Ziggs damage in the early game is not fantastic either. So they end up giving up a kill. Was very avoidable. Ian hadn't come in with a power spike. If he comes back with a real item, maybe you can take the 2v2, but out-skirmished, even though there was a level lead for Beyond from the jungle.
Yeah, and Teddy more than happy to play well far up in this lane, even though Wraith had left. Means that things are going exactly how you say on the bottom side. Pushing lanes, something we talk about all the time, became even more important as we moved into a faster meta.
I feel like we've said that many, many times through many metas, is pushing lanes has always been something coveted, but it feels like right now we're serious. It feels like right now, desperately, you want the pushing waves because the early control on objectives and just the Baron threat around 20 minutes into the Banner of Command, 8.4 is so slanted towards pushing lanes and early to mid game that we've seen teams go so far to make that happen and then just not be able to execute. Rock's Tigers I'm thinking of. Jin Air have a lot of options here as the mid game does crest. He walks up, but ADD, he'll be safe for now.
Yeah, he'll be setting up the barrels. If you remember, a few nerfs onto the gangplank this patch as well. Only 25 seconds on those barrels. Doesn't feel super great. And a few mana nerfs on the queue at the same time. So
weaker pre-9 is the big takeaway because you cannot go for as much non-committal poke.
Yeah.
He also has to start Sapphire Crystal. You can't start the Relic Shield as easily because before, at 40 mana, you could just queue the enemy champion for the 10 gold bandit and stick with just last hitting. So some of the options are removed, and you'll notice he's going to be going for a GP10 item, but maybe not the one you might expect. This is saying, I'm going to be pretty heavily ganked and miss some CS, going for the Ancient Coin.
Yeah, also going to have the extra 5% movement speed on that item that was added in this patch as well, so that's exciting.
Bit of mana restore as well.
Can be picked up on So-On, so his mana restore is going to be well and truly up there.
Okay.
That's an odd one.
I'm very surprised by it being onto the Gnar, but this seems to be a thing that's picking up in solo queue if we're seeing it on Gnar, of all champions.
Yeah, people just like coins. Might feel like you've got extra money anyway because it's a coin. Not entirely sure.
Was the hot fixes on patch 8.5 that went live to basically remove Bandit, which is a huge tone down in power of the GP10 items. So I guess people saw this coming, but we're on 8.4 for at least a little while here. So going to be in this GP10 meta.
Yep, a little bit longer for that one. It's ADD. Still just going to eat some oranges. Be absolutely K up here on the top side of the map. Happy to fall behind in CS. You can see gold about 600 in the lead for Jin Air. As you might expect, but as the Kleptomancy starts to ramp up, MVP will probably start closing that gap almost naturally. Jin Air want to be able to keep on this pressure as much as possible.
Get the confirmation that it is going to be Archangels out of the Ziggs. Big reason for this is maybe not the one you might think of, which is, of course, the shield being there and having a bit of tankiness in a build, which is now very, very squishy. Ziggs is always going to be prone to being all-in.
I have a feeling that it's probably just the fact that Archangels is crazy good right now.
It's crazy good. There's a lot of power. It's 1,300 mana, so if your blue buff is contested, those parts are clear.
Well, it goes Beyond, looking for Teddy, but Rocket Jump is going to be easily enough. Damn mobility.
But it's one of these other things. It's the fact that it builds so well. It's a tier, 750 gold early back into the Lost Chapter, which is a very good second back, into finishing at 900 gold. So it builds well. It gives you the shield that lets you get over the fact that you have 1,200 health in the mid game as a squishy Ziggs with the item changes that have come through and all the other factors. So the fact that an item builds well, which is something I'd say about the new death cap as well, is a relevant thing when it comes to the fact that you are limited in how many item slots you have. And I think that's one of the reasons also that we're seeing a Ziggs covet the Archangels.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that we're seeing the Ziggs at all. Honestly, we're going to see him potentially lose this blue buff, though. Is Permafrost still on there?
I think we're fighting.
Yeah, Smite's coming down. In goes Beyond. He's going to get the flash. Kidnap comes down.
Double Kidnap.
Great position, but it moves him out of all of the damage. And Emperor's Divide's doing massive work. Jin Air should be able to clean this one up. Even So-On is going to survive. It's a double kill for the Gnar, and that's another one for Grace.
Picture perfect by the Zac, but unfortunately everything around him falls away. The team didn't actually just put trust in the kidnap happening, and it's just a disaster for MVP. If you watch this, it looks like the start of a perfect team fight, but the circles that you alluded to don't line up at all, and they get crunched by the Azir damage. Grace is free hitting on the backside. So-On and Mega Gnar going to be tanky enough to survive through all of it. A bad look for the side of MVP, Jin Air Prophet.
Yeah, and 2-0-1 now on the Gnar. Absolutely fantastic for So-On, who should be able to take control of this lane. Often when we talk about the fact that GPs go okay in the lane, it's when everything's neutral and the GP's allowed to play safe. That is not going to be the case this game, as So-On is heavily accelerated, even with the Bandit that he's added on top of it with his Ancient Coin.
As things stand now, though, pretty even in terms of items. It is two parts of the Trinity Force for ADD, so no big, huge issue in the top side yet. And the Klepto Gold will start to
make things work.
We'll wait and see what the gold numbers look like. I take your point. I think So-On will be a couple of 100 ahead at 9 minutes, but that snapshot should heavily change as the laning phase goes on. Level 9 soon to be hit for ADD, and then there's mana nerfs, so no longer there. 60 mana to 40 scaling compared to the 40 flat mana for the parlay on patch 8.4.
And as you might have seen on the bottom side of the map, Teddy just wanting to make sure that he stays aggressive, threw down Buster Shot for basically no reason onto Pilot, just to let him know that he's having a rough time. And Opti's going to start off this Infernal Drake. 10 minutes into the game. A little bit late as far as 8.4 Dragon start timings have been concerned. There's been a few early ones.
They're going to be skewed a lot by Olaf's and other solo Drake champions being out there. The Sejuani and the Zac definitely not falling on that, and it is 100% kill participation for Umti in the early game, so it feels good to pick up an Infernal. And this game is definitely setting up for spicy team fights, which hopefully will mean the action we're already getting in the first 10 minutes. Gangplank can prove to get a split push lead, but it's always interesting and dependent on builds from the Gnar. Gnar has the choice to build for lane or not. We know Beyond is sauntering around bot side.
Well, Blasted Slingshot does come in once again, but we do have the rocket jump. Teddy's going to be A-OK. Topside, a bit of aggression as that Kidnap ain't doing all that much as Max, he's just going to eat him, spits him back out, and Beyond, it was almost like he was celebrating by turning into goo on the ground.
We thought maybe there would be the Devour into the goo as another cool thing you can do if there's enough Tarkan stacks, but hit the kill anyway. Beyond is in the right position. Wraith had ult, but chose not to use it, knew there was no way out. Getting the information here, it's been a long time since we had mid lane Ziggs. The bot lane Ziggs meta was there for a little bit of time, but 2015 summer, my first season casting, and towards the start of it, July 2015, Frozen now over on 1907 Fenerbahce against Goong. It was most recently on Top Gaming in the LPL.
Yeah, exactly. Now moving to Turkey and China, respectively.
I think he's still on the squad. I know he's not being fielded recently with Marin in the lineup. I think Korn is the starting mid laner now. There's been a couple of changes for top.
Yeah, Korn, another name that we haven't seen heard of for a long time.
And this was the Easy Hoon special, the mid lane Ziggs.
Well, it's the Easy Hoon special in the mid lane just in general.
I'm sure Easy Hoon's watching this game and saying, I could go back to my starting spot.
Yeah,
I found a champion I like.
Exactly. He's sorted it out. We just need Lysandra and then we're A-OK.
He's a Karthus guy as well. Those are his biggins.
It's almost like he likes wave clear and sitting there farming forever.
He was very much into the wave clear.
He was an agriculturalist mid laner. Liked the farming stage. But 1-0-3 farming certainly has been a thing that Jin Air have been able to do from the mid lane, as Grace has been farming champions as well as creeps. Highest CS in the game at the moment.
Well, his comps differ, I think, is in the identity mid game. Could just turn into team fights. Again, that's a possibility. But Gnar having lane pressure on a Gangplank and grouping with the Tristana at 1.5 to 2 items is something that Jin Air will desperately do.
At least on the bottom side of the map, MVP make up for that, given the 2-item spike coming in from the Ezreal, who already has the Iceborne Gauntlet. ADD, though, getting shoved out this top lane outer turret. You can hear the cannon barrage. PTSD. But it is going to still be the turret falling down. And first turret blood going over to Jin Air means that they have continued to extend this lead. Now, 2,000 gold, not exactly a massive amount. But any added advantage that you can get in map pressure means so much more given the darkness that's been on Summoner's Rift since the removal of trackers.
And do note that this was at the same time with Rift Herald in hand for Umti. They didn't need to use it to get the first turret of the game. Beyond is playing bot side, but that should be expected for Teddy and Wraith in the bot lane, and the turret is high enough health that a pure turret dive is looking unlikely from Beyond. We saw KSV try to match these sort of plays a couple of series ago, try and play bot side against a Taric, and it's so difficult when ultimate is up. May have a flash down on Wraith, but a pure turret dive won't happen, so it just ends up being a free advantage to the side of Jin Air. Unfortunately, not for the Tristana, who really wants to get out of lane and start to train down turrets with a satchel charge. Tristana's farming. Everything's going fine for Jin Air. They picked the draft with the pushing lanes and got the first turret. So far, so good for Jin Air GreenWings.
Yeah, understandable situation here for them. But if we're looking at these compositions, I'm looking at both sides and saying, oh, well, I guess the scaling's certainly there. You look at Tristana and Azir, things feel great. You look at Zac and Gangplank. Even Ezreal, to a certain extent, can do a lot of late-game damage and has a lot of poke that he can throw down. And Ziggs, in the same way, offers late-game power in the form of controlling the map with your Mega Inferno ball.
It's one of those weird things where if you look at the scaling, I want to say where the slight leads are, because I take your point.
I don't really know where it goes.
The kind of unknown factors are Ziggs and Gnar, because Gnar is unreliable in terms of teamfight impact. If you get a vision lead and you can teleport behind with Mega Gnar, absolutely can win a fight, but there's also been plenty of Gnar games where things don't come together. And Ziggs is very good if he can keep enemies at a bouncing bomb's range away. But of course, if he's gap closed on, can die and pop instantly. So those are the more unreliable teamfight elements. I give a slight lead to Jin Air just because I feel like Gnar is more reliable than Ziggs, but you pick the wrong fight against either a Ziggs or a Azir, you know what happens.
Well, Beyond is looking for this Birdman in the mid lane, does get the kidnap off, jumps him over his wall, gets the flash, which is exactly what they needed, and the heal, but ADD, he's getting solid on top side. Orange is coming at the right time, good flash, as someone's chasing after him. Is it going to be enough? Mega Inferno Bomb? No, he's too quick. Thanks to the extra 5% move speed on the Ancient Coin.
Doesn't really have an escape route, and he's dead. Dunked by Ian over the wall, so they still pick up the kill. They trade Summoners, which is probably decent. Back onto Grace.
Yeah, Beyond's back in there. He's going to get his arm range broken, so Grace gets out of there with the shifting sands.
But this is once again Umti trading up in terms of what junglers are doing in the middle of the pandemonium. He comes bot lane. Beyond, all he can do is interrupt Grace. He doesn't have the damage to kill him, and the Rift Scuttle control will get him out. So Jin Air, once again, in the general disarray of top, pick up the small and slight lead.
Yeah, no turrets yet for MVP, and they're looking at this mid lane. Remember, Ziggs, pretty good pushing power with that satchel charge that he actually just threw out, unfortunately. Now, Umti's going to come, try and defend this turret. So not really going to be a thing. Minefield not going to deter him from clearing out the minions. So MVP get half health on the turret in the mid lane for losing a whole lot bottom side.
And I do love the fact that you bring up the satchel charge detonation damage, because last time we had Ziggs in the meta, it was bot lane, it was all about teleporting bot with a tank, and just taking that first turret comically early because of the satchel charge being able to just explode a turret below 30% or whatever the level 1 threshold is. That's not possible when you have largely losing lanes. The Ziggs can't just roam bot, come behind the turret, throw a satchel in, and take the turret when you have Gangplank and also Ezreal into Tristana. It does mean that if there's a way to get a Baron, they are going to have so much standing gold claimed so quickly with the satchel charge. There's a huge Baron buff power play available for MVP. Is looking for this Drake.
Yep, not going to be able to steal it away, and Beyond is not going to jump in and try and steal it. Bouncing Bomb was optimistic by Ian, but thankfully there was a smite on Umti. They'll be able to grab their second.
The Ziggs is being very well curtailed, but could snowball the game really far ahead or be a burden on his team, depending on Baron. So I think MVP making a smart Baron play is their best way to actually get a foothold in the game.
Did you just mention MVP and Baron in the same sentence?
They were way better last time out.
Exactly. I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing. I'm saying it like it's a newly formed great thing for MVP.
I was sitting there hyped about MVP's Barons against Rocks, where they were turning off it with the Realm Warp. Just in general, I've had 2 good series around Baron. So the VOD review was about 2 years too late for me, but they seem to have made the adjustments around the Baron. I guess they were finally told, hey, you lose the Baron, you kind of lose the game. This Banner of Command minion coming into the fore, and now they're finally being respectful.
Well, ADD was trying to steal away that Gromp that was stolen by Soan. Soan relentlessly pushing on the top side of the map and still has that CS advantage, but Klepto is certainly keeping ADD in this one.
I'd love to know how much gold the coin has generated on... Oh, we can see 250 gold or so generated for the Gnar.
Yep. ADD also having a decent time.
I know.
Blue buff, they're looking for their first one of the game to be delivered over to Ian.
They don't have any vision on Grace. He's coming in, but they're coming into this.
Yeah, in goes Beyond. He's trying to get what he can, but no kidnaps available. Emperor's Divide gonna get rid of ADD and Ian on the other side of this battle. In comes the Abyssal Voyage as MVP's bottom lane turn up Mega Inferno Bomb onto Grace, who takes so much damage. Double kill for Ian as now MVP looking to try and get out. Beyond's not going to be able to. They're happy to get a couple of kills on the mid laner.
It's a 3 for 3. Should have been a 3 for 2 overall because Teddy actually altered Pilot to safety over the wall. Double scoop on that one was unfortunate for him, so he ends up going even, which is a decent trade for MVP with how far behind they are. Pilot escapes. The kills go onto the Ziggs, who is working towards the Leandris' second item. That's interesting. Watching the replay here, we saw what was happening on the top side. Notice what happens when the Tristana groups. I think Umti did pick up the blue there. It was hard to tell. The 1-for-1, though, meant that things started very, very even. Awkward part is Abyssal Voyage gets Pilot there. He's almost instantly burst out, but you notice he's actually ulted over the wall. The Satchel Charge doesn't kill him and ends up going 2 for 2 in the end.
Yeah, absolutely fine for MVP, and they'll take that given the start of this game going so wrongly. Not finding the fights in these corridors is really unfortunate for MVP because that's where this composition does shine. With so much AoE damage in certain areas means that you want to be able to corral your enemy with Cannon Barrage and Mega Inferno Bomb.
Not a huge fan of the Haunting guys.
Yeah, I think it's a bit
after
weird.
The change. The old Leandri is obviously a fantastic item on Ziggs. You will still get the max HP damage on the Minefield, so the Minefield becomes a pretty big AoE thing that you must respect, but the ramping damage doesn't necessarily synergize as well as Beyond looking for this.
Yeah, Dazzle does go wide as Beyond does come in. Not going to use the Q just yet as the Devour in at exactly the right time. Permafrost will be there as Pilot gets himself out, but Jin Air, 5 members, could not lock down that pesky Catfish.
And they actually commit to the teleport, which means they have a teleport disadvantage and mini Gnar, as the Gnar was exhausted at the end. So Jin Air trying to make something happen. No, they're probably going to lose a bot lane turret, or they're going to have to completely lose vision control around the Baron. So I would have liked to see a cancelled teleport there, and Jin Air can't really make anything out of the investment.
Yeah, it's been impressive from MVP. Just defensively, early game play is not going the right way at all, but they've been able to stave off Jin Air at almost every stage as we've moved into the mid game. Baron's been alive for 2 minutes. Sorry, for a minute. And the bottom lane's going to be defended here by Soan, but teleport was utilized, and ADD still has his. We know that MVP like to throw themselves at Baron as quickly as possible, so that's why I sort of bring it up. Have to talk about Baron very quickly, and you can see they're fighting for vision already. Zombie wards here as Beyond has taken Domination Tree second.
Scuttle Crab kidnapped away and will be taken out. Rune-wise, the Guardian on Wraith is one of the few notables there. Often see the unsealed spellbook just so you can switch over to Cleanse, but not really any Cleanse value against the team that MVP is running. There is Cleanse taken by Ian, knowing that he can be trained down by Sejuani. You picked the wrong fight against the Minefield, the Gangplank barrels, and maybe even a Kidnap from Beyond, and it certainly can be taken around. So I think Azir is the person who will have to adjust his positioning in the late game the most. No more diving in with his E. The Shifting Sand's probably just going to be a defensive ability.
Yeah, and it feels like it's sort of like double Kidnap composition with the fact that Devour is there as well from Max. He will want to be using it on his carries more than anything else. I think the synergy Tahm Kench and Ziggs have is really great given the mobility that you have and the safety on the Ezreal means that Ian can utilize Max's repositioning much better. Having options of CCing members really far away from their team is actually really exciting, as we saw Max try and do it in that gank on the bottom side already.
But now Jin Air's being stalled. They really want a second turret. It's 2 items for Teddy. So he's hit his early game power spike. But finding a way to get the mid lane turret just to get 1 satchel rotation after kill, it's very difficult. And look at this. Very creative Baron. They haven't shown as enemy Rift Scuttle control. Now they can start to back over. There's the check, 6,500 health. They back away. Like the creative approach, but will not work this time against the side of MVP.
Yeah, MVP, of course, always aware of Baron at almost all stages of the game. So thankfully, True Shot Barrage was there to be able to not commit, but still check. Okay, Jin Air still with the blue ward available, so if MVP goes for any of these cheeky little Barons, they can check that one out. It's now ADD, gets a bit of a movement speed buff. Once he's Bramble back, the Soan's going to come down, but that's going to be the Trinity Force proc, and ADD locks down the red buff.
Games like this remind you why on patch 8.4 we talk about pushing lanes. There's so little vision available for the side of MVP. Minion waves pushing in, and then Jin Air darting into the red and blue side jungle respectively. Give them so much threat onto objectives. Have finally backed off the Baron. It's going to be a free Ocean, as that one's going to be picked up and added to Jin Air's lead. And another Inferno will be spawning. Going to get quite a few Drakes this game.
Yep, Grace moving up towards topside to keep that one pushing in. You can see that outer turret at pretty much maximum health. Not one of these Gangplank games where he somehow manages to get turret damage, and so on, having a lot of kills early on. Feeling great about that one.
The build actually altered by Ian. He goes for a very early Void Staff in this game. Already was Banshee Veil onto Grace, his immediate opponent, and knows that picking up MR and Wraith as well. Void Staff's an interesting spot in this patch where Riot took 10 AP off it because when you saw the Liandry's change, it seemed very clear that people would go into a 20% CDR item and straight rush Void Staff. That will kind of become the meta.
Yeah.
But they shaved away 10 AP, which now means that the item, not including the magic penetrations, at 57% effectiveness. So you really have to be a bit more choosy about when you actually rush the item. So the immediate power level picking up early is questionable unless there's something like a Banshee Veil in the mid lane to tip it over the edge.
Yeah, and right now there is, so you're right. I think it's a decent idea. Null Magic Mantle on top of the Merc Treads for Humpty as well. So to cut through that, need a little bit more help. I would have liked it third item. I think finishing something would have been good, but Liandry's doesn't feel great onto Ian. I would have thought that...
I think you need the Liandry's because Haunting Guys feels even worse because you don't have the max health damage.
Yeah.
If it was an Oblivion Orb, then at least you'd be stacking
Well, I mean,
10.
I think that maybe he could have gone Oblivion Orb and maybe made a mistake. I don't know, but just feels like a really good option.
Strange.
Going to be coming in here. Also feel like Morellonomicon is just a great choice against this comp as well.
Watching the push around mid lane. No control now for Jin Air advance, but they are getting the push in bot lane. This is the part where Jin Air will start to worry. This Gameplank's getting free waves. They're not pushing their position on the map. And their gold lead is really only the standing gold. It's only the 2,000 gold from turrets.
Yeah, it's straight up stagnated since about 10 minutes into the game.
Tried an early attempt at Baron about 3 minutes ago, didn't find anything. They need to find a way to invade with the Sejuani, put down at least a couple of control wards, and kill this turret. It's always frustrating to push in on a Ziggs. We're back in the 2014 meta in a lot of ways. Unless the Baron buff is there, it's very hard to move your position. And MVP have won the game by delay in the past 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, and it's not what we're expecting out of 8.4 as well. We're expecting these faster compositions, but when it's against Jin Air, who's happy to go scaling versus scaling, it's an opportunity for MVP to get themselves there. But remember, Teddy is all the while scaling and scaling and scaling. Pilot sitting on 3 items now, but it's the 2-item spike that you want to take advantage of oftentimes on the Ezreal. He'll still get stronger, but I feel like Teddy's going to eclipse that as the game moves on.
They have very low backline threat outside of, say, the Ziggs ultimate when it comes to actually getting getting damage onto Teddy. So while Pilot has a self-peel Iceborne Gauntlet build, this is the sort of game where if the fight starts away from Teddy, he can clean up aplenty with his early core. Was actually around the corner considering a very aggressive rocket jump in to try to kill the Ziggs. Game continues to delay, but when will the first face check happen here is what we're wondering.
Well, Empty hanging around the Baron. They can see that there is a control ward sitting there. MVP, yeah, it's just a lot of darkness on this map. Beyond moving back, wants to check whether the purple worm is being taken.
A different approach with the GP10 items. The Nomad's Medallion for the Sightstone effect and a Sweeper is picked up for Gangplank. I expected a lot of people to go into, not necessarily the Nomad's Medallion, but definitely into the Eye of the Watchers line on AP tops to get extra vision, because for once you actually have a question. Before it was, let's have as many sweepers as possible, and then the warding will sort itself out. Now, there's so little wards available with no Tracker's Knife that being able to have a Sightstone effect and a sweeper is a big win in the vision control battle that wasn't relevant when junglers could do both. So at least now GP can both help deny and put down vision, and for so on, it means they have one sweeper less on the side of Jin Air GreenWings, so they can't clear out the vision.
Yeah. Feels like taking away Tracker's Knife was actually not going to be less wards, it was going to be less vision denial. So theoretically, it's almost more wards. But Baron's been started once again.
And
Teddy
fast.
Over the side. He drew a bead and he smacked down the purple worm. Wraith now in trouble. Hasn't used the ultimate just yet. Is he going to be able to get the connection? No! He gets stunned out of it. The passive is still going to be there, but Max, he's in trouble in the front line. Flashes away. That's a very last-minute cannon barrage and doesn't actually achieve anything. Good Baron from Jin Air. And now at 28 minutes, can they get some decent work done? Looks like this outer turret in the mid lane will go down, but what more can they get?
A really lethargic contest came through from MVP. They already saw the threat 5 minutes ago, but didn't use the preview. They couldn't have vision around the pit, and well taken. Teddy walked up to complete it. Now the Ziggs wave clear is less relevant against the Baron buff minions, so big pickup, and the Banner of Command is now done. So the first Banon that want to break the base.
Yep, almost double Banner of Command as well. As you can see, Umti, he's building towards it, almost has that item.
They need ADD in the lane with the Banon minion, otherwise they have very little ways to clear it.
Well, True Shot Barrage is going to fly through, but Pilot has to be very careful. That's a 3-item Grace who just finished Leandri's. Going to be able to clear out all of the creeps and take down the inner turret on top side as Wraith wave clear Tarek looking to try and get things started in the mid lane.
He hasn't actually committed to using it yet because he was unsure where the enemy team was going to pile up. A lot of people will just use it off cooldown, so they'll have the ability to use it again in about 60 seconds time, but very much wants to shop. So that was the call. Jin Air says, we're going to shop, we're going to go back, buy our items. They now have double Banner of Command. Could play 2 lanes or 1. My instinct is to play 1 lane, because I think they can bulldoze through, and the only option MVP will have is to launch beyond and hope when it comes to actually forcing a fight.
Yeah, and I wonder whether Jin Air are going to go for some sort of like Bert and Ernie play where they put both of them in the 1 lane. Could be interesting. Infernal Drake going to be the priority now to make it 4 dragons in this game.
It also makes Teddy a complete guard. He's going Bloodthirst, which is a high AD build as well.
Yeah, just ridiculous. They are going to be able to take it. All too easy for Jin Air. Now it feels like the game is slipping out of the hands of MVP. From mid to the early late game, MVP were looking like they were getting things done, but this time around not happening as Wraith... Okay, Bert and Ernie are going to be separated now. It's a little bit depressing. The mid lane and bottom lane.
Tom Hench.
Yeah, thankfully Max is going to be able to eat it, bring it into turret range.
Distraction. Confuses the minion.
Damn, Ernie lasted a long time.
Bert in this bot lane is ready to
yeah.
start putting into this Banon, and certainly going to take at least 1 turret, you'd think.
Please do a better job for me, Bert. If he goes Beyond, he's going to try and stop him, but that's a lot of magic damage Beyond has, and it's not going to do a whole lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the target got distracted, but mid lane, it's going to go down. MVP needed to commit to a fight. You cannot play 3 lanes against double Banner of Command on patch 8.4.
Yeah, this 1-3-1 is just so terrifying. Have to invest the ultimate just to save this out, this inhibitor turret, but Grace, he's still pushing. In fact, Bert's going to be more than happy on the bottom side because he's not even going to be in range of the turret despite his low health.
Jin Air is still not done. MVP are being drawn across the map than they wanted least. So once built for lane, he's going to play the Ruin King as next time already has a Phantom Dancer, but he's going to be pinched.
Yeah, he is. It's going to be Pilot delivered into this one. Flash comes in, but that was a little bit of an optimistic move. The Nar's going to go down. They do manage to take the turret, though, and MVP unable to defend on all of these fronts. They needed to try and punish somewhere, but I don't know whether the Nar was the right choice, given the fact that the base is now broken.
8.4, these are the things you have to be able to be ready to play against. An MVP slow on the Baron contest and then pulled across the map with double Banner of Command coming at the most fortuitous time possible. No good decisions for MVP. They may have a free-farmed Gangplank who, as we know, is going to be at least competitive, but maybe even ahead in CS. But they have no standing gold, and I think they may not even pick up a single turret this game unless Gangplank gets one right now.
Yeah, thankfully they got 6 kills, so it's not going to be the perfect game from Jin Air, but this turret will go down. Thankfully, oh, actually, no, it won't. And God, Teddy does some damage. See you later, Pirate Man. He's not exactly the most intimidating of the Pirates. just gets jumped on and destroyed.
That pirate was caught, gone to jail.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
No, piracy's illegal, kids. Don't do it. As Teddy was the law in this case, massively strong. He's going for his last item. I believe Executioner's calling into a armor penetration item here. It's going to be the big takeaway with the Mortal Reminder, and unfortunately for MVP, I think they've already been outscaled in this game. The Ziggs has been pushed around. They've been pushed around in terms of lane assignment. And unless they find the most optimistic fight for the Ziggs and Gangplank to rain down on one, Jin Air keep playing 3 lanes. I can't see MVP getting back in.
Yeah, and with Grace and Teddy just being so incredibly strong, if MVP have to go to try and stop this Baron, which is going to be something that they can't actually handle if it does come out, second Barons are a real worry. MVP aren't going to have too many options, because you move into choosing a fight against Teddy and Grace, you're just going to die straight up. There is so much damage.
You try to defend his 4, and Nar has built for the split push, which I think was a really smart choice by So-On. He's trying to kill a Gangplank rather than build for a team fight, because very early they went into 3 lanes and said, how are you going to deal with this? And the answer emphatically has been that MVP aren't able to. The Tristana has been a bit of a query for us. We thought we would see something with more wave clear, but in this particular game, they went Ezreal. Didn't really have a way to use it against the Tristana. And so far, Jin Air have been able to play their game. And outside of a couple of good moments early, once the delay was busted by the first Baron, it seems like MVP have just been watching as Jin Air piles on gold.
Yeah, and it was a bit curious straight from the draft as well. You can understand the double kleptomancy, you know, we want to be able to get heaps more gold than you and then win in the mid game, but they weren't able to do that. The fights were messed up early on as well, and with the priority on the Ezreal over the Tristana, you're asking questions. The Gangplank priority as well, even though we're on a very different patch here on 8.4.
And look, Gangplank is competitive in some games, but you need multiple other winning lanes. And also, you would say that scaling is deprioritized on a patch where the first Baron will often answer the game. There was an interview with, I believe, but I think it was someone from Jin Air, where he basically said the win rate from scrims with first Baron is 90%. And that just shows you how strong Baron sieges are. MVP opted into multiple losing lanes. The Ziggs has not ended up being the answer to some of the shove inside lanes, and now the second Baron is spawning. We're 35 minutes in, so it's super powered, and MVP are in no position to face Jin.
Well, that's going to be what Beyond is doing, and he's going to have to try and kidnap his way out, but he's not going to be able to. The Bloblets don't last long at all as the Sand Soldiers deal with them. No more Zac. Now MVP, no more counter-engage options, anything like that. 4 versus 5, and dealing with Jin Air going after the Baron. No chance for a steal here at all, and it just evaporates.
Fortunately for the side of MVP, they put their faith in the wrong champions. The Gangplank, to me, got them no lead in the early game, not taking Caitlyn when it was available. Allowed the Tristana a free lane as well, and unfortunately the game was decided by that first Baron. Jin Air push up, and whatever globals are used, picking up a single kill is not enough.
Well, I mean, So-On is at least going to go down, so making MVP feel a little bit better, but once again, Jin Air, lots of damage availability as Teddy makes short work of the turret, the inhibitor going to follow. The distraction Gnar from So-On, hurting the KDA, but certainly helping them win the game.
Now the full-on turret defense is happening. They can wait on the respawn timer. Why not pick up an Elder and add up to some more AD and AP for Azir and the Tristana? MVP trying to at least get some control around the area, but they can't fight this far out. There's really no way to do so. So-On will be up in 25 seconds. Seems like MVP might try to make an emergency play. Jin Air will just wait it out, have Gnar group with them, and then be happy to go for the team fight.
Yeah, the 4 Drake Elder is not something that MVP feels like they can deal with, and with the base broken in 2 places, they'll be forced to have to fight Jin Air or just watch them take their base.
They have to find a way to kill Tristana first, and with Teddy and how good his positioning is, seems impossible. So that's 6 items, not quite at 28 minutes like when he played Ezreal against MVP in the first round robin, but he is ultra fed and farmed on this Tristana. Will just win a fight ruler style if he's able to.
Yeah, well, the Elder Drake is going to be pulled out of vision. You need to try and get in there, try and get Beyond to steal something, but True Shot Barrage ain't going to do nothing, and that's going to be Teddy. Probably credit for more damage than Smite was able to do, so Omti, we're not going to give you too much of a hard time for that.
We thought about going in on this. Teddy might as well be Zed, a ranged Zed at this point. He is happy to take on any 2 with an overshield, 506 AD. That's some sick crits coming out from this Tristana. And you look at the side of the Ezreal, a cheaper build, but still an incomplete build. They roll in Teddy at max range. And what's he going to do, MVP?
Yeah, more of Malmortia is going to be the next one in for Pilot as well, so not exactly what you really want. The last inhibitor turret going to be under fire, and it's another Baroned up minion with that banner of command.
Teddy wants a pentakill, Atlas.
Well, we'll see whether he can find it. He probably has enough damage. I mean, we could say that. As Max takes a lot from Grace as well. It's going to be hard for Teddy because Grace is doing so much work. But double banners. Bertononi finally together again. Ian at least pulls it in range of the turret. And he really gets a rough go of it. So he just died up on the top side.
Grace pushes in. There's really nothing MVP can do but fight, and they're too far behind to win a fight. Teddy will answer it on his own. So it just feels like a slow bleeding out of MVP.
Yep. A wave clear, just not quite enough. 26 seconds on the Baron should be easily enough as Ian has to flash out of the way. Everyone flashing to escape the damage, but look at that! Sand Soldiers tearing them apart. It's no pentakill for Teddy, but it's definitely a game win as Jin Air continue their destruction from their victory 2-0 against Kongdu, and now game 1 against MVP.
They're going 3-0 on patch 8.4, and even though MVP, we questioned their drop, no questions about Jin Air's drop. It is very patch 8.4. They executed it well. There were concerns around 25 minutes where they couldn't advance their position. But credit to Jin Air. They looked for the second Baron sneak, and it seems so obvious when you try to sneak it one time, never go to it again. The second time MVP did not respect it fast enough. The Azir and the Tristana trained it down, and then the game was out of MVP's hands. They were watching as Jin Air took every objective on the map. And while their KDAs didn't suffer too much after that, the game ending seemed like a formality.
Yeah, I want to look at MVP really adjust the draft in game number 2 because it was cute. We understood the ideas. We were excited to see whether it could work, but honestly, it just straight up didn't. I think they need to go back to something that's tried and true and try and have some winning lanes, have some capabilities as far as executing in the earlier stages and not just fall over and die, which is basically what they did here this game.
Some of the sounds in this replay were far too loud. Zig's laugh was
yeah.
Hilariously loud. They continued to poke in. By the time they even thought about fighting, I mean, the base was already basically dead, and I was watching Teddy. I missed Grace. Just instant kill everyone. Flash forward. There's the command attack. Goodbye, everybody.
Just so you know, Q was nerfed on Azir.
In the early game, it wasn't the early game anymore. And Jin Air GreenWings, Clean Air once again. Clean Air reigns supreme in week 7. They're making that late advance for the playoffs.
Yeah, you can see the look on Jin Air's faces. These players are ready to get into game number 2. This was just another day in the office. They're focusing ever forward because their road through the LCK second round robin here in spring does not get any easier. They have to pick up this next victory, make it a 4-0, and get Jin Air GreenWings on the right track, moving throughout the rest of it, and getting them equal with SKT feels brilliant, giving their 1-1 in the head-to-head. But guys, short break, then game 2.